Hello, this is Thomas O. Mills. I found this mural while I was researching the navel of the Earth. After living with the Hopis for a few years back in the early 70s, I would call her Mother Earth or Spider Woman in perfect balance with her 12 constellations on each side. When I look at her with the Hopi in mind, I see that she has two sides and is nurturing both of them. Above her head is the sun, and I would think that the 5 lines coming down would represent the equinox, the winter and summer solstice, and the halfway points between them. Her centerpiece is the life symbol, so she is in the perfect balance. The 4 corners would represent the 3 previous worlds, and this the 4th world of today by Hopi count. On both sides of the outer edge she has 12 constellations. On the right side they have stars on their heads, and on the left each figure has a circle representing the sun or the moon. Close to her right side are 6 constellations, and on her left side the other 6. This is very important, as they tell us the order and the symbol that they used at the time the mural was created to distinguish between the different constellations. In between the 6 figures of the constellations and the constellations with the stars and the moons on her head are 2 scenes. The one on my left, when looking at her, I call figure 1, and the one on my right, figure 2. In between her arms next to her head are 2 more scenes, and I label them second and third. If we know the order of the constellations and what symbols they use to represent them, maybe we can use this knowledge to shed some light on the Zodiac astronomical ceiling of Dendera. On her right side, at the bottom, Gemini would start the sequence, then Taurus would follow, Aries, Pisces, and then the next age, the age of Aquarius. Capricorn would also finish one side of her chart. On the left side at the bottom, Sagittarius, Scorpio, Libra, Virgo, Leo, and Cancer would be the 6 constellations on that side. This same order of the constellations was found out in the Pacific island of Tonga on a large stone called the Triathon. The Hopi believe they traveled over a large ocean, always traveling east at the time after the last great flood. In the center of the zodiac circle, there are 3 more figures that are not on the chart. They're located right there in the center. The first one, I call him the Destroyer, but they've called him the Dragon or the Big-Headed Snake. Then there's the Little Bear constellation. Then the leg in the center is the Great Bear, or the 7 major stars of the Big Dipper. Also at the bottom you see a bull with a star on his head. In Peter Thompson's Secrets of the Great Pyramid, he says that's Cyrus. Then you have the hawk on a perch in perfect balance, straight north and south. And then you see the nephew there with his planting stick, moving off to the right. There are also 3 figures below, so I explain those. That's those 3, the Cyrus, the balance, and the nephew. The Hopis believe this is the 4th time the Creator has tried to populate the Earth. If correct, the twins, or Geminis, would have started the cycles, then Taurus, Aries, and we are living in Pisces, going into Aquarius, and that would be our next age we're moving into. I think there were 8 hands. I think the 8 hands of Orion, the hawk-headed figure holding up the circle, where they cross over each other, represents the 4 directions, our north, south, east, and west. The 2 inner circles indicate the Earth's 2 paths as looked from outer space. One, the ecliptic, or when the sun's light shines straight on the Earth, and the other, the celestial, or Earth's tilt, where we get the summer, winter solstice, and the equinox. Where these 2 paths cross each other is called the Vernal Equinox, and this point gives us specific dates back in the past and into the future, just like a clock. These 2 paths also give us 2 North Pole locations, and the constellations move on the ecliptic path and Orion on the other. In 1998, in Japan, a similar star chart was found in an underground chamber. It shows the same 2 inner circles, but with different constellations. I think if an astronomer wanted to compare the Yellow Man's constellations to the ceiling of Dendera, all he would have to do is overlay the two charts and line up the crossing points of the two inner circles, or the Vernal Equinox, and then the stars would all line up, and he could tell which represented which. The Hopi believed we were all created equal and at the same time. Different guardians taught each race the same information, but in different ways. I think the constellations were carved on the ground in England, just like they were carved in the ceiling of Dendera and the star charts in Japan. So let's look at the space between the 12 figures with the stars on their heads and the 6 figures of the constellations on the right side of the mural. Orion is leading a balanced hawk on a perch into the future with 3 figures behind him. There is a scribe following behind him to keep records of the event. This scene reminds me of a scene from the underground chamber called KV-17 up in the Kings Valley. But instead of a hawk or a perch on a perch, there is a female figure, Spider-Woman, following the nephew. Again, 3 figures are following. The Hopi believe this is the 4th time, and the Creator promised he would try 7 times. So we have 3 more times to come, or 3 more ages. The scene located on the other side of the mural, on the left side between the 12 figures with the sun and the moon on their heads, and the other constellations, shows the destroyer pulling a bull by its rear legs using the weight of a feather. The bull is being speared by an Orion figure right in the navel. A lion, an alligator, a dog figure, and a hawk are watching, and there are 4 figures looking on. These figures are represented many times in the murals of Egypt. The bull being speared by Orion is always there. Here's a few of those murals I'll show you so you can see how many times it's been used. I think it's also represented by other locations like the Hopi villages and the ancient sites located around them, all the way over to New Mexico and Chaco Canyon. The Hopis know that their guardian picked the exact locations where he wanted them to settle, and they had the whole continent to choose from. Why would they settle where there was no running water, no soil, very cold in the winter, and very hot in the summer? Perhaps the guardian wanted them to remember that when the spear hits the bull's navel, things will change and we will enter a new age. And he didn't want them to grow soft and forget this important lesson. So you can see that here's, I'll start up at the top. That's Ledge House. Number 2 is Canyon de Shelley. Then first mesa, second mesa, third mesa. Homalavy's just outside of Winslow there. There's 7 large villages there. Walnut Canyon is up by Flagstaff. Wapatki is north and east of Flagstaff. And then you have the navel, which is called Supai, which is at the bottom of the Grand Canyon where the Wallapai Indians live and Havasupai Indians. And then you see that the bull is coming towards the navel. That's out at Peach Springs. You see Las Vegas, and it's represented there on the ground. So all these ancient sites where the stars, the major stars are, have villages located on them. So if you follow it over into New Mexico, you see where Chaco Canyon, that would be the front leg of the dog. Then Acoma, the big mile-high city, that'd be where his head was located. Santa Fe, New Mexico, Taos. You've got, and then up into Colorado, you'd have Mesa Verde, Hovenweep, the Combin Ridge, Cedar Mesa. So all these old ancient sites all around Arizona and New Mexico represent the chart the same as in the ceiling of Dendera. So if you look at the Valley of the Kings from above with the ceiling of Dendera in mind, you see the twins, Gemini and Taurus the Bull, near KV-17, where the 2-sided ceiling was found. Other chambers could be found if they overlaid the constellations on this site. The outline of the underground chambers tell the same story about the constellations. So I just want to put that out and let people know. Thanks for listening.